All right. Well done. So, this is my AWS environment. I was playing around with some resources. That's why you can see these ones, but they are terminated. So, let's just say you want to provision a database. Maybe asked to provision a database on your for an AWS client. Probably a client wants to, start building stuff on database. So RDS is the managed database service for AWS. So it's very, very unique, um, and expensive as well. So I'm just showing you so that you would know about it, not because I want you to use it or anything. It's probably on your free tier account. You get me? Okay. So by the way, you people know that I forgot to delete my resources from last class. Only for me to wake up this morning to prep for this class, and I saw that all those VPCs and EC2 instances that I created last class were all still running. So it ran from Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. But anyways, I have some credits there. So I just know that it will probably take from there as well. But it was very, very sad. I felt somehow, you know. So yeah, what is RDS? RDS is AWS it's called Relational Database Service, where you can provision. Oh yeah, thank you. I think because I was rushing, I was rushing to kind of meet up with another meeting, so I forgot to delete my resources. So everything was up. So AWS is RDS is Amazon's relational database service that makes it easy to set up, operate, and manage resources databases without having to manage the underlying database yourself. So primarily, just like the way we have servers, with the rise of EC2 instances, primarily when you are building infrastructure, most people have to think about how to, go and start configuring databases, same way they configure servers, the networking and all those stuff involved in it, which was very, 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 very stressful. It was not a sweet experience. It was not a fun thing, to be honest. Um, the rise of AWS gave room for managed services and databases too as a service is no exception. You get you don't have to manage the underlying networking and security that comes with provisioning a database. AWS does it for you. So with AWS, it provisions these databases. It does the patching. Patching was one very, very hectic, stage, very, very hectic task, to do as a database engineer. It does automatic backups. So you don't really have to worry about backing up the data. You can provision it and set it in such a way that it will back up by itself. You get me? Then software updates as well. With RDS, your database will always be updated. It will always alert you when the current update is going out of date, and then you can trigger an update, or it just basically tell you when you trigger an update, it does the update for you. You get that kind of stuff. Then scaling up and down. So with manual databases, you have to deal with, oh, okay, the resource on this database is too much. The resource utilization is too much. You have to now start going to get another database to connect. And that whole networking experience was not a good one. So um the RDS comes with RDS. comes with its own, ability to scale. So if the particular resource is not meeting the right requirements, probably your database is getting overloaded, you can scale it up. There's also an option for what they call multi-AZ. So multi-AZ means that you can provision your database across multiple availability zones, which is good because if one zone is down, you can easily switch to the other zone and continue working on it. You know, so there's also what they call read replicas. So read replicas as well is um read replicas also like, okay, you have a database spread across two zones. One is for read and write. So there's read and write, then there's there's read. So the read happens in such a way that if probably the one that has read and write is down, it can still be reading from another one, even if you will not be able to write to it. So read and write is basically, self-explanatory. Your application will write to the database, and then it will also read from the database. So read replicas is creating a replica or a copy of the primary database that is used to offload read traffic. So in situations where you have high read traffic, is the database inside the traffic is the one that is constantly being read. That high read can also cause, some sort of, you know, high CPU utilization. So you create what they call a read replica so that instead of your application to be constantly reading to the database, you know, constantly listening to one database, it will just only be reading from another database and then writing to the primary one. When it writes to the primary one, it replicates what it has written to the read database and then to continue reading from there. So RDS is a very sweet service, and it's something that you need to know, as a DevOps, as a cloud engineer, basically. You most likely have to provision databases. So something that you should know. And RDS is basically like your platform as a service. So when I remember in the beginning of the class, I talked about infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. RDS is platform as a service where you don't need to manage the underlying infrastructure, the underlying networking, and the rest. What you just need to do is provision your database, and it will give you, and you can manage the underlying systems for you. What you just need to do is, start connecting your data and setting them up and the rest. Mind you, you're not a database engineer. You're just an infrastructure engineer. So most likely you'll be the one just managing the infrastructure, not operating the database. So yeah. So there's some key features of RDS, which is, like I said, multi-AZ, read replicas, automated backup. Now there's also a performance insights. So look at this is a performance insight here. So with performance insight, you can get to see what's going on in the database itself. There's no database, so you won't see performance insight. You get to see what's going on in the database itself. And with this now, you can probably shout at the database engineer, oh, why are you running these queries? These queries are causing XYZ to happen. For example, now I've been in a situation where our staging database was constantly at 99, 90, 95, 99. This was the tool, that was the part of the RDS that helps me. I had to go and check the performance insight. And I saw that the database, people that are operating the database were running some queries that are sucking the memory and CPU out of the database. So if I didn't check it, they would probably not have known, and then to cause problems with the database. So I checked it and then I gave them feedback. That will basically be your work on a day to day. Then yeah, in a production environment, it is not safe or it is not ideal to manage your own database because you have to deal with everything by yourself, which is very, 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 very not ideal. So that's why these systems are here in place for you to be able to, get the right, get the right infrastructure that you can work with. So yeah. All right, so let's spin up a database. Let's see. Let's show you how it's done. Now, this is the environment to create the database. When we're done with all this, I'll show you how to do it on infrastructure as code. You will most likely, I won't say you will not do it, but you will most likely not be doing all this clicking in the office environment. In some offices you still do. Like I've done gigs where nobody they use IAC for them. Everybody will have to go to the console to do whatever they need to do. But it's best to know the best of both worlds as well. I always teach you, I won't just go and jump into the shortcuts. If you don't know, like I mentioned this in a few classes ago, if you don't know how to do it manually, how will you know how to automate it? You can't automate what you can't do manually because it is a manual process that you understand the need for automation. You understand? So now this is Aurora. So Aurora is like serverless, the serverless version of the serverless databases basically. So it's it's good, it's great, but depends on the use case that you want to use it for. Um, it comes with MySQL support, Postgres support. Then this is the default MySQL. So this is a MySQL database. If you're building an application that needs a MySQL database, this is where you're going to come to. Then there is a Postgres, which is also another type of database engine. MySQL is open source, so you can read more about that. It's very, very used in content management systems. So if you're building content management systems, you know, MySQL is ideal. So you too, as a DevOps engineer, you will also be able to tell them what they want. It's not everything that they will tell you. So for example, now you be contacted, oh, we want to build XYZ system. What kind of database should we use? So you have to understand MySQL is most likely for apps. I'm not saying that it's set in stone though, but you need to understand it, underlying level to be able to provision what the client will need. It has a good community support. It's easier to migrate. It also supports read replicas as well. So, and it's also low cost in a certain level. Then there is Postgres. So Postgres is like a step up you get. So most companies these days that want to build high SQL related databases, they use mostly Postgres, rather than MySQL because supports complex queries. It is good for analytics. So in 2025, where people want to do a lot of analytics type application, Postgres supports it better as well. So that's why I say you should take a look, take note of these use cases. Because they may ask you, oh, Peter, we need a database that can XYZ for our application. What do you suggest? So you tell them, oh, I'll provision a Postgres database because it has, support for complex queries. So if you need advanced database features, you know, that are, working with analytic heavy applications. So if your application is very analytical heavy, Postgres should be the right option for you. Like I said, it's not set in stone. You understand? But it is just the support. Then there's MariaDB. So MariaDB is basically like MySQL. MariaDB is basically like MySQL. It's a community-driven version of MySQL. MySQL is more of enterprise. MariaDB is more of a community-driven version, but two of them work hand in hand. So if you don't want to provision more MySQL, you can provision MariaDB, the same commands as well. So yeah, there's Oracle database. There is the Microsoft SQL Server. So there's also Microsoft SQL Server as well. If you want to build applications that are deep tightly fitted within the Microsoft ecosystem, then this should be your best bet. Sometimes you want to build an application that supports ASP.NET, which is like a web framework for C Sharp, I think so. For Windows-based application, SQL Server should be your best bet in this case. And it's IBM DB2. So you just it basically. So yeah. So for Postgres, we're going to choose Postgres. I'm going to choose the version. Let's say version. This is version 17. Should we use the latest one? And you can okay, let's use the latest one. Now this enable RDS extended support, meaning that once this version 17 expire, once version 17 is out of date, it will still support it, but still tell you, oh, you should upgrade. Because on database, they will give you warning right from when, even before it gets out of standard support, they'll start giving you warning. But if you enable this, even when it gets out of standard support, you can still be using the database. However, they will charge you more. That's what they say. More is a paid offering. By selecting this option, you consent to being charged for this offering if you are running a database major version past the RDS end of standard support date for that version. What this English is trying to tell you is that once the database expires, this version now expires, probably RDS or AWS team is no longer supporting it. You can still be using the database, but you'll be charged more, sometimes twice as much. It's always best to upgrade when you need to upgrade. Um, Now after this, now you go to free test. This we're doing practice. We're not going to do production. Production is very heavy. Please hold. Give me a few minutes. Sorry, brief break in transmission. So yeah, I'm back now. There is a single AZ now because this is a free tier. You will not be allowed to provision multi AZ. The reason why we're not doing all this is because of cost. You get depends. So, because if you're in a company, you'll be like, oh, provision, provision a multi-tier, provision a multi-tier, a multi-tier database, a multi-AZ database, so that for failover. You can see from a diagram here. You can see from a diagram here. It has a read and write. So this is the one that we connect to the application. You get this is the one that connects to the application. Then there will be two here, one and two, one and two. They are called readable standby. So when this one goes down, the application automatically shifts to reading data from these two. However, it cannot write data back. You understand? So if you try, that's why you see situations where I'm not trying to paint a scenario, it's not as if it always happens. These situations where you are you can log into an application, but you cannot create a new account. You understand? That's what happens in this scenario. This right, because when you want to create a new account, you have to put your username and password and first name and all those things. It will now write to the database. You understand? So when you write to the database, when you want to now log in, it will now go and read those details that are written from the database. However, there's sometimes when the database will be down, so you cannot create any more new accounts, but you can log in because it is taking your login details from the readable standby. Do you understand me? Please, can I get a confirmation that I'm actually talking useful?
Yes, sir.
Okay, no problem. Because this way this class can be quiet. All right. Now this is the same thing as well. So this is it's going to provision 3 database instances for you. Yeah, 99% uptime, redundancy across a VP, so increase reach capacity, reduce write latency. Fine. Create. So this one now is the same concept, but this one is only just one standby that is giving you. Then this one is single AZ. So for the purpose of our class, we'll just use this free tier that offers single AZ. So while we're here, single AZ, you put a database. Now this is your database instance identifier. This is the name that will tag your database as. You understand? So this is um my RDS. So now I've tagged it as my identity. You can see master username. Master username. This is the Postgres for master username. Then master password is um can set the master password to be, let's say, so just use my full name. Also, in a production environment, you don't provision with the master password. You use a tool called Secret Manager, so that you store the password, and then when you want to call it out to be stored here. But this is since we're practicing now. Since this is a free tier, we're not allowed to create like memory optimized, only bus table, which is for the free tier level. So I'm going to create this two vCPU, 1 GB RAM. Now this is a SSD. Now you can see the SSD that I talk about, general purpose SSD, solid state drive. That's what we want our database to store our information in a solid state drive. Allocated storage. Now this allocated storage now is the amount of storage that you want to give this database, because the database is nothing without the storage. If you provision this now, just give it only 20 gig of storage. So that means any data you want to put inside the database must not be more than 20 gig. So I'm increasing it to 100 gig. You can see allocated storage value. That's for free tier. Allocated storage value must be 20 gig to 6,144, which is about 6 terabytes. So yeah, I just want to give you 100 gig. So imagine you having a 100 gig database. Anything that is within the database now must not be more than 100 gig. Now there's enable auto scaling. So this auto scaling now is that this simply means that this is 100 gig now. If something happens and then the traffic goes so high, it should be able to auto scale as that thing to expand the storage manually. So we'll give it, let's say 256. See, it gave us a sign because they were like the allocated storage value should be less than the maximum clinically. Let's just say we give it 256. That means by standard it's 100 by standard. But if something happens and the database gets full quickly, it should might be able to expand to 256. And after 256, the database is in trouble. So we're like, don't connect to an EC2 instance compute resource. This simply means that so if you choose connect, it's going to tell you that it's going to create an EC2 instance that will be used to connect to this database, which you don't want immediately. So we're going to skip it. The network type IPv4. Then the default VPC. So I did our previous VPC, but if you want to create, you can create this VPC. Okay, this is my previous VPC, but there are no subnets. I did the subnet, but I've not used it. This is the default VPC. See, after the database is created, you cannot change the VPC. Now, this is the subnet group. This is also a very, very important component. A very, very important component. This subnet group now is the amount of is the subnets that your database could be installed in. So, for example, for provisioning, this is very useful when you're provisioning a multi-AZ application. So, if you're provisioning a multi-AZ database, you set the subnets. So if you want to do private subnet 1 and private subnet 2, based on how we did in the last class, you will set it in a default subnet group. So you create a subnet group and then set it. So that when you click on the subnet group, do not install that database in that particular subnet group. Now, public access is no. Public access is no normally, but you do not say, well, I want to choose yes, so I'll be able to log inside. But ideally, it's a production instance, it will be no, so you'll be able to be protected from the internet, because RDS assigns a public IP address to the database. Amazon EC2 is and other resources can connect to your database. Resources inside the VPC can also connect. Choose one or more VPC security groups which specify the resources that can connect. So yeah, this one says RDS does not assign a public address to the database. Only Amazon EC2 instances and other resources inside the VPC that can connect to the database. So this is yes. VPC security group. I'll create a new one. Just choose defaults. Availability, there's no preference. You can keep it. You can just choose yes. It's one A since it's free tier. We're not doing multi-easy, so you can just put it to one availability. So now additional info. Now this database ports. This database port is like this because this is the default port for Postgres. You understand? This is the default port for Postgres. So that's set password authentication. Enable performance. Now, this performance insight is where you'll be able to view the load inside your database. So with this performance insight now, you can view what's going on. This is the tool now that I used to be able to find out what they were doing in my database and report back. So you have to enable it as well when you're provisioning your database. KMS key, key. This KMS key now is for encryption. So if you want to encrypt the data in database, this is what you're gonna use. Sorry. So yeah, DevOps Guru, same thing. DevOps Guru for RDS automatically detects performance anomalies for DB instances and provides recommendations. So these ones are just extra settings, vendor preferences, maintenance. You can see RDS free tier, kini. But me, I've passed my free tier, so they'll still bill me, basically. So I'll click on create. Password does not match key. Wait, let me provision it again. Let me put the password again. It's my key will just jump, and then this thing will end up right now. Please, I know that I'm not going to tell you to create an RDS. It's just purely for knowledge sake, basically. When we're going to do Terraform, I'll also show you how to provision it via infrastructure as code. So that's what we'll be doing, let's say 60 to 70% of the time. And you can see it's creating. It's going to take a while. So while it's taking a while, you can see it's creating. So yeah, this is it. So while this one is provisioning, while so I won't waste time, we'll check out S3. Let's just look at S3. S3. So S3 is an object storage service, an object storage service based on the name object storage. So objects, you can store objects like you can store objects like images, videos, files, and stuff. Object, basically. You understand? So the first thing, objects now are stored in what we call buckets. So yeah, so where you store these images are called buckets. So these buckets help you to retrieve any amount of data from any time, from anywhere on the internet. It's always available. It's like a hard drive, basically. You know, the way you have a hard drive that you just store images, pictures, and stuff. And you can also connect. So, for example, now you want to build a website that has a lot of pictures, you get. Instead of uploading those pictures to your server, the best thing to do is upload them on your database. Then now upload them on your database on your S3. Why am I having train auto? Upload them on your S3. Then now get a link connected to your code. So for example, now you have an application that you have to render images and stuff. Instead of just calling out the images from your code, and then that whole calling out process, it's CPU, it takes a lot of memory and CPU. So you just put it in the bucket and then you get the code out of it, and then you can call it on your website. And then so when a user clicks that point, it will now render from the bucket instead of rendering from inside your server, which is a very, very smart and wise developer decision to do. So sometimes you may be in a company where they'll tell you, maybe in a company where like, oh, we want to provision this, we want to store this file, or we want to store so image, but we need a bucket. So let's just do this. It's just basic stuff. So there are some key concepts first we have to know. So bucket, like I said, is a container for storing the object. So we store it in a bucket. Then the object is the actual data basically that is being stored. That's what they call the bucket. You get. Then key. So the key is the unique name for each object in the bucket. Then an S3 bucket has what they call versioning. So you can actually version your bucket. Like for example, now, if I put a picture, if I put a file, let's just say I put a file now in the bucket, it will now be file 1. And then I now probably make modifications to that file. First of all, if I put the file in the bucket and I enable versioning, you understand? If I put a file, if I create a bucket and enable versioning, if I put a file, then I now go and edit the file. Probably I have made a mistake. I added a few lines onto that file. Once I put the same file back into the bucket, it will version it. So it will be like, oh, this is the version 1 that you uploaded earlier. This is the newer version. You understand? To have a separate version of this new one inside the bucket. That's a sweet thing about S3. You understand? Then, yeah. So there are different classes of S3, which is let's call it important information. It's good information, yeah. So there's the S3 standard, which is what we are using currently. Normal frequently accessed data, normally, you get. Then there's what they call S3 intelligent tiering. So if you want to store data that you don't know how often you will access it, you don't know if you need it today or you need it next week, you put it in what they call S3 intelligent tiering. So all these tiers now are just a cost-effective way of handling this data. So it's not as if, oh, you cannot just store your data anywhere, or you cannot just store your data in any point. You understand? So there's intelligent tiering. So if you have a data that you don't have any frequency as which you access the data, you can put it in intelligent tiering. Then there's also the standard IA. So there's S3 standard IA, which is that one is occasional. If you want to put your database in an occasional, just say, why am I always saying database? You want to put your objects, you want to access your objects occasionally. That's when you use this tier. Then there is the one zone IA, which is non-critical but infrequent. Then there's the Glazer. Glazer is long term. So if you want to store your data for a long time, you don't want to touch it, you put it in Glazer. The reason why these things are the reason why these things are set like this is because you don't want a situation where you are now putting, because normal S3 bucket is the cost is a bit higher. So if you are not accessing this data often, you don't want to be paying high costs for keeping data that you're not using. You understand? So that's why all these settings are put in place. Then there's a deep dive. The deep dive is burying the data deep down inside that you cannot access it for hours. So if when you want to access it now, it's for the rarely used archive. So if you want to keep data, probably you want to you want to drop your wheel or something, you can bury it in deep archive. Where that one, it's you are paying the low cost, but the data is not easily accessible because it's buried deep somewhere. So yeah. So yeah. So let's create a bucket basically. There's now, from the last class I mentioned, bucket names are globally unique. That's what they call them, globally unique. So if I choose a name now, there's no AWS user in this world that will choose this name again. So you have to be very, 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 very careful what you're saving your name as, the bucket name as. There's no AWS. So even if I choose a name now and I say I want to switch to another AWS account, I won't still be able to choose this name. So I'll just say Ezekiel my bucket. Let's put one. There's no way this name will be available. Now from here, now you could copy settings from existing buckets. You can see, you can choose the buckets. Then when we come to Terraform, when we're doing ISC at school, you understand what this bucket is because we'll use it for state management. So if you want to store the state of your Terraform code, you store it in the AWS bucket. So when we get there, and I can see block all public access. There's some data now that you don't want to be exposed to the public. When you get there, you would block it, but this one we want it to be accessible, so we'll leave it open. There's bucket versioning, you enable it. Default encryption, this one encryption, object locks. So it's just very simple, you create a bucket. So let's go back. So all these ones are previous buckets that I've created. I think this is it. August 12th. So this is it. If I click on it, you can see. Please confirm you can hear me. Hello, please confirm you can hear me.
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
I don't know why my internet is misbehaving. Just give me a minute. Let me sort this shit out. The way this class can be quiet sometimes, um, so there are a lot of settings here. You can have the metadata. These ones are not important. There's the purpose. So this is where you see the details of the bucket, see everything. You can see intelligent tiering, storage. So this is where you set your tiering basically, but we're not setting anything here. So whatever is in this bucket now, you can set it. You can put it on. Uh, so what intelligent tiering simply means that it will manually move your so for example now you go and to create a bucket and you store images that you just go and store images. Probably you put in configuration name and you know my documents or something. Yeah. Then you can just put a prefix. Put credit. Now what this one does is that what this setup actually does is that when enabled, intelligent tiering will automatically move objects that haven't been accessed for a minimum of 90 days into the archive access tier. So that means it will use its own hand and move the document. So it will help you to save cost. Now, this same thing, if you enable each the two of them, you can set it. So this one now, if you set this one, you can choose the day. So once it gets to day 91 or something, when it gets to day 91, I have not accessed this file in this bucket, it will move it. We are not setting that now. We just want to show you. Same here too. A file has not been accessed for 180 days, that's 6 months. It will move it to the deep, deep glacier. So that's just it about the bucket, basically. One thing with cloud engineering is that once it's just a set once and then go. You just be asked to set stuff and the rest. Now there's also cross-origin resource sharing. So this cross-origin resource sharing is there's some there's some sites that you would want to put these S3 buckets in that will not allow. So you have to set it to be able to allow all the sites to access. So that's just it basically. I feel like we should just play around with all these configurations. This one is just for metrics. So you can use it to check the metrics or the number of images you have, the size, you know, and the rest. Then this is the management. And these are life cycle rules. So these life cycle rules now is where you now do all those setup. So if you want from the get-go, your life cycle rule action, you can check the rule option, then transition current versions of objects. It will move current version. So for every version that it has passed, it will now move it to. So this is like when they say lifecycle configuration, you can move you can move your image, you can move your bucket from one tier to another basically. So if I want to store the you can see in the right cycle will transition current versions of objects between storage classes. Then transition non-current version of objects between storage classes. Expire current version. Permanently delete non-current version. So it depends on whatever you want to set. delete expired objects, delete markers, or incomplete multi-path uploads. So this part now is telling you that for files that did not properly, upload, you can to delete them. So cancel. I'm not creating any of this. So yeah, basically, this is just want to just show you how it feels like. You're not really doing anything with them apart from just creating the bucket. Then, since this is our bucket, we can just upload something. I click on add files. I'm just gonna add my file. Let's just say add this file. Then I'll upload this. So since this is a public URL now, since it's a public URL, you will see you'll be able to access it from the internet. So you can see object URL. I copy this and paste. You don't see it now, bro. Refresh. It's not public name. And permissions. So this permissions now is for the people that can access these files. You can see public access, authenticated with object owner, your AWS account. They can read and write. So and the version. So this version now, this version. So this is the current version that is here. If I go and upload this document again, I'll upload this document again to override this version. So yeah, that's just it. Let's go back to our RDS. You can see that it's working. We need to actually start doing IAC basically, because that's where the real meat of the matter is. So you can see this one is available, because to be honest, you won't really do a lot of drag and drop in the company. Yes, you still need to know it basically, bro. We'll have to take it a step further. Logs and events. These are the logs. These are your database configurations. It's your metrics, so you can use it to monitor what's going on. CPU utilization per percentage. I use to monitor what's going on in the database. If you see production database now, you see a lot of spikes. All the spikes up and down here. Same thing here. So this is where your configuration will be. So first of all, this is your endpoint. So now when you want to connect to a database, for those of you that are into they are like developers, for those of you that are like developers, so for those of you that are like developers, when you want to connect to database, you will see database host. So this is the endpoint that you're going to give them to put there in database host. Then the ports will be this. So this is 5432. You put the port there. So when you want to connect, like now, when I remember when you were doing when people were doing Dream Vacation app, you see DB host, DB user, DB port, DB name. So your DB name will be this. DB name is actually not even compulsory, but you can still put this. DB host. That if you're using RDS for that situation, I just only told people to use the database in the Docker Compose. But if it was RDS, you do DB name, DB host, so this is DB host, DB user will be Postgres, which is this. Where is that thing? This is it. DB will be, the username will be Postgres. Then password will be whatever you set as password. Then the port will be this, basically. That's where you'll be able to connect. Alrighty. I don't know why this is not connected. I think it's just troubleshoot. I need to troubleshoot this. But that, yeah. So any questions so far? Does anybody have any question both on what I've taught now and Bash, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, sorry, I just wanted to ask a question. You made mention of, I think, I don't know how to put it, like resources, using it under 1 hour. So let's say the task now that you gave us, you exceed creating a VPC, or you
Mhm.
started creating a VPC, but you've not finished under 1 hour. Will they charge you?
I don't understand. I don't get the
Like,
question. So if a
like
resource you're on AWS, you're charged per hour.
per
So you're
hour. So
charged
I'm
by the
saying
hour.
if that
So even if
task
you don't
now,
use it,
that
even
task
if
you
you
gave
don't
us,
use
if
it,
you can't complete it under 1 hour,
no, that's not
and
what it
expect,
means. Not what it means. What it means is that if you
okay,
the resource, if you cannot complete it within the hour, it will be you will definitely exceed 1 hour now. So it will charge you for one
okay,
hour. Just like billing now, just like the way you have billing when your work
I
when
know,
you understand. So if you create your resource, as far as that thing is running, within
okay.
1 hour, you will get a bill. Next hour,
Yeah.
so it is 0.1
Mhm.
per hour. Next hour, you're getting 0.2. Then that kind of thing to keep accumulating like that over hour. But you will definitely exceed 1 hour to create your
Or
resources.
once you are done and you delete it, are
Yes, the
there any
bill
ramifications?
disappears. It will stop
Okay,
billing
it
you.
clears. Okay, all right. Thank you. That's what I
Yes,
wanted to know.
it will stop billing you immediately.
Okay.
But as far as it's running, you keep on. So is there any more question? More. Sometimes when people don't ask question like this, come you should feel like say, I don't know what I just thought. All right, though. So is there any issue with the current tax? If you have like an issue with the current tax, please let me know. Or the previous tax, or an issue basically with what we have done so far.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Now.
Yeah, I think I have an issue with the previous tax. I don't know if there's a new tax. My tax is tax 5.
Do you have an issue with what?
Tax 5.
Tax 5. I think I've marked all tax 5 now, haven't I? There's no pending tax 5.
Tax 5, I've been at tax 6.
It's tax 6 that I
Okay.
just uploaded today now. So your tax 5. What's the issue you're having basically?
Wait,
Huh?
it's at the point of my point, Docker token. I don't know. Like I'm
Docker
trying to
token.
the other one yeah. Docker
Docker
yeah, tax
hub. I
5.
don't
This is tax
understand.
5.
Can you
Yeah.
speak louder, please?
Hello, can you hear me
I
clearly
can hear
and
you now very
louder
well. I
now?
can hear you now very well.
All right. So I don't something is going wrong while I'm trying to use my Docker token. It's not.
How?
Hello?
I can hear you. I said, what is the error
Network
you're
or
seeing?
can I snapshot it and paste it on the group? Hello, sir.
Okay.
Can I drop
And
the
can please paste
error?
it on Discord now. Let me see.
Okay, okay. Okay, fine again.
I'm waiting. The class is running. First of all, I don't know. Are you sure you did the right permissions for Docker Hub token? Because when you're creating the token, you'll be asked to show either read or read write or read write and delete. Possibly you did only read. That's why it's not able to write, because that whole process of pushing to Docker Hub is a write process. And for those of you that are seeing the tag, please go back to the previous video if you want to know how to do the tag. But I explained the whole pipeline for you, how it to go. So please go back to the previous video. I want to ensure that after creating your EC2 instance, after you have done the build and push, which people have already done, do a write process where it will take the image ID and replace it on the Docker Compose or YAML file. After replacing it, then you SSH it to the EC2 instance you have created, and then push, do the old arrow sync and everything. So you make it a complete CI/CD pipeline. The next thing, when we do Terraform, we also use CI/CD for Terraform as well, because that's what is ideal. So after when we have learned Terraform proper, the next task will be we'll create a resource. So all this click we're doing, we're going to redo it on Terraform. And then we'll now do it in such a way that once Terraform CI/CD is deployed, you you now SSH into it, just like that. It's just a very, very crazy stuff, combining cloud and DevOps. But yeah, that's just it. Have you pasted what in there to paste, bros? I'm waiting for you.
Good evening.
Good evening. Please, who is speaking?
It's Wilfred.
Oh, Wilfred. Ah, boss, well done. Oh. Good evening.
Good evening. Please, for the tags, are we just creating one subnet?
Yes, we're not
Okay.
creating two. So if you create only public subnet. So you do the VPC, internet gateway, those things. You're not using NAT gateway because you're not doing a private subnet.
Okay.
So you do a public subnet. You put the instance inside the public subnet. Then once you've gotten the instance, you now go back to the pipeline, adjust the whole right configuration, then SSH into the instance. So when I teach Terraform, we're going to do this whole pipeline again. So we'll now your file will now be back end, front. What will be on GitHub workflow will be back end, front end, and Terraform. So Terraform will also have two CI/CD pipeline as well. That's why I wanted everybody to do this project, because it's like a capstone project that will encapsulate to the end. When we do Terraform, you also write Terraform code that will automate this whole process as well. Then once you deploy it, once you click on Terraform apply, it will go and provision the instance and then do the whole CI/CD. So after your Terraform CI/CD is complete, it will now deploy backend and front end seamlessly at the same pipeline. So yeah, bros, that this person that said he wanted to post something, I'm still waiting for you. I'll end the class, so please. All right. Since he's not ready, any more question?